Hello and welcome to the Agatebay YouTube channel. I'm Joshua and today I'm taking you to the gemstone capital of the world, or at least it used to be. Idar-Oberstein is one of the most historic places in terms of agate production and in general for gemstones. More than 500 years ago is when the tradition started in the Steinkaulenberg mine, which we are also going to visit later into this video. It opened up in the 1980s. Up to now, there have been 3.5 million visitors visiting the only open to the public gemstone mine in all of Europe. So that is definitely a highlight that if you're in the region, you don't want to miss out on. And this video is going to be a little bit of a teaser or a guideline if you are over in a different country and would like to visit Idar-Oberstein, specifically for the International Agate Show, which was the main reason why I was traveling to Idar-Oberstein with my co-worker Jigos. So first off, we have the museum visit. There's actually two museums in town, but we only had time to visit one of the two museums. Then we're going to visit the International Agate Show, where I was exhibiting, showing some beautiful agates from all around the world. Third part is going to be visiting the historic lapidary workshop and the gemstone mine, and then I'm going to cut a few larger rocks as well. I'm standing in front of the Deutsches Edelstein Museum in Idar-Oberstein. We are here in the region for the biggest agate show in Europe, in the small village of Niederwörresbach. We've just been visiting the museum and we have to say we are genuinely impressed by the quality of pieces that have been here on display. I have to say the museum is absolutely worth a visit. I'm sure it doesn't have the same kind of ability and funding as other, for example, more private museums have. Because I assume it is a state-funded museum. But nevertheless, it was super impressive to see a variety of different sorts of specimens, both in agates and mineral specimens. For example, Hai standing up one of the biggest agate faces I have ever seen, the world-famous clover leaf in an agate, the unhooded owl, as I call it, and also some beautiful polyhedroid agates. Foremost, a piece where you can very neatly see the exact structures of the original barite layers that separated into the polyhedroids into the different chambers, and also an incredible piece with the multi-chambers. But the specimen where it's like layered with the different barite sheets in there is, I have never seen anything quite like it. So super impressive to see some of the older pieces from earlier times. And also in the higher levels of the museum, you would see some of the gemstone carvings that have been done back in the day. Specifically, also in the highest layer, you will see exceptional collection of different gems that have been carved into layered agates. And these are called agate cameo. These are actually carved out of layered water level banded agates. So these are heat-treated old stock Brazilian agate where one layer is black, another layer is white. So it's exactly carved out with each of the layers. That's how you have this strong separation of black and white, and depending how thin or thick the layer is, you can also have a different color shading within this water level lines that form these super high level specific carvings. So super impressive to see all of that in the history of that as well. There's not as much done of this anymore. There's 100 hours of works that are going into a single agate bowl, and probably even more than that. So you have the cost of material, the cost of labor. So just for a single agate bowl, the more filigrane they are, the more work of course goes into it, because you have to take off more of the material within those bowls. Today they cost like $10,000 for one of the hand-carved filigrane Idar-Oberstein made agate bowls, but just the cost of labor will already be like many $1,000s worth of it. So that was the first stop. We are heading out to Ritter right now. That is a company that is producing diamond tools for processing of agates, but all sorts of gemstones as well. So that's where we're gonna head next. At the company Hahn, we got some of our older saw blades back to plane and corrected and sharpened as well. So I always get my high quality saw blades from them, but they're also continuously developing new products for the market. So for example, these grinding and polishing wheels is something they brought out new. Hello and welcome to the one and only biggest show for agates in Europe. I am in Niederwörresbach right now, which is just outside of Idar-Oberstein, which has a tremendous tradition for the processing of agates and also the sources of agates. This is Sunday of the show. It has slowed down a lot. Yesterday it was packed, and this is only one of two halls. So this is inside of a school sports hall. Volunteers put all the tables up here so we can all have a great weekend. That's Jigosh, and this is my entire booth here. So you can see there's a fabulous selection of pieces, and like I've been announcing earlier, at this show here everything is new material that I picked up fresh from polishing from the last few months. So we had fantastic sales. It's by far been the best show I've ever had here in Niederwörresbach, which is really great to see that the market is still developing here in Germany too. Although some people certainly have their doubts about the markets here. For a couple of years it felt like there was a little bit of a recession, but also my online sales have been growing throughout the last years. So it's, I would say, much more a shift of the market, but it's definitely growing. But also a lot of the younger collectors, they just don't make it out to those shows, and they just shop online. That's just the way the business is developing. And there's also Johann Zenz down here, famous book author, who also is exhibiting. And there we have Andreas, who is also working for me. So yeah, everybody who is interested in agates, practically in all of Europe, this is the place where everybody's meeting up. So it's always a fun time here to come over and hang out. I am on my way now to the smaller of the two halls. This is what it looks like. Right behind me is the bigger one of the two halls. It's just a lot of fun here to come every year, hang out, to see all the familiar pieces, and I hardly have any time, so I try to walk around while the show is not even open yet. So I'm super grateful for my co-worker Jigosh here to help me out and build the booth and talk to customers, because it happens practically every hour that someone comes by and says, "Hey Joshua, I got this rock here," or "I got this part of my collection that I want to sell." So I'm going to show you some pretty exciting pieces, and also we're going to do a live show on my YouTube channel next weekend on Sunday, the 28th of March. Let's hop into the other small show and look around a little bit. It's really primarily local material and some of the usual suspects of petrified wood and Brazilian material and all that. So here we have some stromatolites, some petrified wood, some of the famous red brachiated wood from Winnweiler from Germany, and this is the booth of Hubert, who is a very, very nice person. He's got a beautiful large dog, very fluffy, super nice guy. And you're able to find some super affordable material just from what people are cutting. They like to cut rough stones also here in Germany. It's not quite as popular as it is in the US, that's for sure. The space is a little bit more limited. So not a lot of people have their own cutting workshop, but I mean, it's one of the most enjoyable parts about the industry, I would say, cutting your own agates. Absolutely, for sure. And also, of course, you can make your own pendants out of agates and fossils. Some of the local material is very affordable. Just 17 bucks. But here in the back we have a really nice one with the calcite on top of the amethyst. So that's a really good one. And then a lot of the local material, which is just so affordable that it hardly even makes any sense. I mean, I pay more than $5 for the polishing of a piece like that, and someone has to find it and cut it. So it's really just much more about the fun of these pieces rather than, the commercial aspect. I did get the other half of this one. That's a spectacular large-size condor agate from the Peter Jäckl collection. This is here the booth of Sven Salzer, another very nice collector who's coming here every year for many, many years. We have local material from Waldhambach, which has been closed for probably about 20 years now. Then we have the German Thunder Egg Agates, Thunder Egg Agates from a different German location, more pieces from Juchum Quarry right here. And yeah, I mean, some of the pieces are a little bit more colorful, but practically every agate here is just, yeah, pretty heavily fractured. So that is part of the reason why those fracture-free pieces are just a lot more. And hi Thorsten. Not everybody is understanding it to a certain extent, that you just have to cut so many agates in order to just get a few good ones. For example, I have some of the best agates that are here at the show, but not everybody is understanding the aspect and amount of work that goes into bringing these to market. I'm on my way now back to the big hall, and I will be showing you the special exhibit, which is pseudomorph agates. You can see it right here. This is the agate they have on the poster. Here is the collector showcase, and there are some exceptional quality pseudomorph pieces here in the showcase, specifically from Germany. So you will find, I really like this one here a lot. Just such a perfect display of the pseudomorph. Others are a little bit more wild and less structured, I would say, but also this one here in the back from Karrenberg just really looks like worms or something forming inside of it. And then a lot of the carbonates you will find from Germany, they are just carbonated. A lot of the pseudomorphs, so they're not really agatized. Some of them are still this original aragonite or calcite material, but not with the agate. This is a very interesting one as well, because it has this beautiful spray here, and then the crystalline calcite as kind of a split part of the nodule. This is a, I would say, more classic, typical piece. You will find those here at the show, at some of the dealers' booth as well. I love this one here from Regina. That is just such a special piece. The pseudomorph I like this one here a whole lot. Also in combination with the light amethyst, this has to be one of the better ones. And then here we have some other German locations with the pseudomorphs going on. There's also the classic pieces from Wendelsheim, for example, which are probably scodicite, just into the different areas, very wild patterns, and these are actually the ones where you can see some agatization as part of the pseudomorphs. Just gonna pan over so you have some time to look at these. Widen your horizon. And now here again we have a mix of different pieces. We have Chinese pseudomorph agates. This one here is a monster. I have a little bit of a similar one up on my website. I'm not sure if it's still available, but I did have a very nice big one. This is the one actually from the poster. That's the one they used for advertising. It's a smaller one, probably like just shy of 2 inches, but definitely a cutie. And then here are some Moroccan pseudomorph agates from the Corrosion location. This one here in the front is from Siderahal, also with some nice amethyst in combination. The Corrosion pseudomorphs are typically also not as, I would say, distinct or filigrane. A lot of fractures typically in these pieces, but definitely nice to have the spray perfectly hit here in the bottom corner. And yeah, a lot of the Moroccan pseudomorphs will just look like this or this. And this one here actually is also from Morocco, but does have a lot of similarity with the Turkish agates, which we have a couple of up here. That's also a Turkish one there in the back. And this one here again is from Morocco. That's one of the Swazi agates with the pseudomorph. One from Brazil. And then over here we have a Koyamido. Of course, those can't miss with the pseudomorph topic as well. This is a beautiful piece here with probably after calcite formation from Zayan, which I have seen some gorgeous pseudomorphs of. This is a very interesting one here from Johann Zenz from Mexico. Back here as well. And this is just such an unbelievably nice piece. congrats to Johann Sens for owning this beauty. Beautiful specimen. And some of the condor agates, they also can have pseudomorphs, but they're also a little bit more decomposed. I have seen a couple of those before, but having agatized pseudomorphs from condor agates is a very rare thing to see. Down here at the bottom we also have another Koyamido, a lava cap specimen, another Koyamido here in the back. I don't think this is a Koyamido. This looks different to me, but you know, maybe I'm wrong. We have a Baker Ranch agate. We have an Axilla thunder egg, which is probably close to the lava cap. Something very exciting I need to show you right now is polyhedroid agates. Back in the day, 2 tons of polyhedroid agates have been exported to the German company Ruppenthal. And a collector who bought a lot of the material at the time, he bought it for 50 cents per kilo. So unbelievable low amount that doesn't even make any sense. He sold most of it in rough at an earlier time, but he's been able to get some of the pieces back to people he's been selling. He's been offering me his entire collection of pieces, so I got about probably like 100, 150 really nice polyhedroid agates, a lot of them smaller in size, but just very, very cool specimens. But also the German agates, just something you don't see that often, and so I'm happy to be able to bring those to market. Let me just show you a couple of the polyhedroid agates, which are visible right down here. So we are in front of the historic lapidary workshop here near Idar-Oberstein. This building was built in 1754, so it's been operating for almost 300 years. And there used to be over 50 of these lapidary workshops down this little stream here. Because back in the day, of course, there was no electricity, so it all was water powered. By this lake here, so there's a barrier here that can regulate the water flow. So all 50 of the workshops had enough power to run their workshops. And around 1900 was when the electricity came over here into this valley, and then a lot of the lapidary workshops along the stream were left empty because a lot of people just went to their other houses. Back in the day, it was a lot of farmers' families that were having this as a side income because they were struggling for living. And the entire families would be working in here. The last time this building here has been operating commercially was 1990, and since then it is a museum workshop. So we are inside of the workshop now, and you can see this is the masterpiece here that runs all of the different segments here in the workshop. And currently it's pretty low running because the stream outside here is regulated with a slow water flow. But of course the faster the water flows, the faster this is going to spin. And all of the different other items you have here, the tumbling machine, the saw, the grinding machines, they would be running faster if there's no water flow. Also the saws here, those are about 130 years old. Yeah, so this is how the saw is cutting. It is a mix of water and petroleum. Of course it's very slow running right now because the stream is a little more regulated. And then back here you have a weight that is pulling on this string here, and that is what pushes the agate into the saw blade. Before the agates were able to be cut, before the 130 years, they were trimmed just by breaking off parts in order to get a flatter surface, and then all the remaining part had to be grinded off. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine having to grind on broken pieces? That is just so much work. Yeah, the guide just showed us this is how the grinding worked. This wheel here weighs 2.5 tons. That's probably somewhere close to 6,000 pounds. And it is from a quarry about an hour away. So horses and pulled these big stones from the sandstone quarry over here, and it took about a week to replace the wheels with the logistics of creating something that is even able to lift it. And then there was horsepower getting it through the door here. So everything just took so unbelievably much more time back in the day than it takes today. It's really just remarkable to see that process. It was mostly children that were grinding on the stones, because the adults, with the blood flow into their head, they were just not able to do it for an entire day. And they've been grinding for 8 to 10 hours here every day. So it was a very, very hard work. So it turns out this is not a tumbling machine. This is actually a grinding wheel. So this is a wooden base, and they were creating a paste here with limestone, because it's a finer grit than the sandstone, and then they continue to grind on a wooden wheel with a paste of that limestone. This industry has been existing here for about 500 years now. It was only regional stones that were found here, but already in 1840 there were people that moved away to Brazil mostly. So local people from this area here moved to Brazil. They saw there's also agates that they have already known from the area here, and then they exported them from Brazil to here, and another entire industry has been created by having the Brazilian agates over here, and that has been over 150 years ago. So just, super impressive to learn on the history here. Back in the day, they were also creating some bowls here. So that's the wheel, how they've been like grinding out continuously the dent inside of the agates. It takes about a week to grind out as far as it is right now, just doing it all manually. So this is how the rocks got here from the quarry. So they first had to pre-grind them into form on these wheels here in order to get them into shape, into the round shape, in order to be able to put them on there to hollow out the agate bowls. So this over here is the polishing section with the finer grits. So they used to be grinding on lead, which of course is very, very not so good for your health. So after a while they forbid it, because all of the people working here in the workshop, they were of course breathing in all of the dust that came off the rocks on the polishing wheels. So the average age of how old the people working in these shops got was about 40 to 45 years old. So people didn't make it very long here, but also not just agates have been worked on here, but also other gemstones, specifically varieties of quartz. And also here in the wheel, for example, you can see that there's some dents in here, and this was primarily grinded in to be able to create a round shape, so you can also grind on the same piece from different angles at the same time, and not just make a flat polish. This snowflake obsidian took about 90 hours to produce, and this piece here about 180 hours. And here you can see this is one of the local agates from Juchem quarry here in Germany, and surrounded by Brazilian agates. So also Juchem quarry was able to produce some big stones here. I was able to get this exact German agate, which they used for display in the historic Weiherschleife. And you can see this is from the Juchem quarry, and right over here you can see there's even a pyrite inclusion in the piece. However, I thought it's a super cool memory that I was able to get with this stop in the museum and the mine. I am in front of the Steinkaulenberg mine right now. This is the entrance, and I will just be explaining a little bit as I take you through a slideshow of what it looks like inside, because I didn't want to take any videos inside of there, because there were other visitors and I didn't want to interrupt the guide, because it is a very historic place. The first time it's been mentioned, I think, was in 1375. This mine has been built throughout the last 600 years. I think 1979 or something was when he said they restored it and made it a museum place. They widened some of the main hallways in order for visitors to be able to navigate a little bit more comfortably, because most of the pathways were only about a meter wide and a meter high. So you had to kneel down in order to get to the place where you actually wanted to get into the mining. So it certainly took a fair amount of time to even get to the place where you wanted to start digging. In the prime time, there were about 50 to 100 people mining inside of this mine. The primary target were agates, and at a later time, when people were able to figure out the possibilities to process amethyst and quartz crystals as well, then they also were targeting more the other varieties of quartz that are in there. But the prime target were agates and jaspers that have been found in the mine. It is a system of 3.5 kilometers that have been all dug out by hand. So you have to imagine that there were no explosives being used. It's only hammer, chisel, and similar tools that they use to break open the rock in the natural cracks of the host rock and extract the gems by this method. They sometimes also used wooden blocks that they got wet, and with the expansion of the water in the wood, that would help crack open the rock as well. So no freezing, just through the expansion of the water in the wooden cells is how they were able to very slowly crack open the rocks. But it was all a very long process. The guide said in order to continue digging, they were only proceeding about 1 meter per year, which Grzegorz and I have been thinking sounds very, very, very slow. And maybe it's also just part of it to make it a little more dramatic. Grzegorz said he could dig a 1 meter hole within a week, but I think realistic is that you could probably do a meter in 2 to 3 weeks or a month in all reality. But still, 3.5 kilometers is a lot of time that people had to dig through in a couple hundred years. And yeah, with no electricity, with just your hands as tools, and yeah, all very, very impressive to see. I hope you enjoyed this little excursion. I'll see you later. As the last stop of this video, of course, we also had to do a little bit of cutting. So I went to the company Dreher in Fischbach to cut some of the stones which are too large for my Stone Master Agate saw. So they have a saw that has a saw blade that is 3 feet in diameter, so most stones you can cut with that saw for sure. We cut a petrified piece of wood from Turkey, the only one that I have with that black agate and these agate veins intercepting it, a couple large crazy lace agates, and more pieces from the trip to Turkey which were just too large for my saw. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for watching.